not based in Kenya. It is based in the US. That's where the major headquarters are. So when they collect data from Kenyans, this act is not within their scope because they are not domiciled currently in Kenya. So there's need to have such a provision to ensure such data is also within the scope of the act. So an analysis of the GDPR.
Interject kindly. Rogers, you
Yes.
have 4 minutes to go.
Okay.
I'll try and summarize. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So here's an analysis of the European GDPR in relation to Africa's legal framework. So to date, so far, only about 16 of 54 countries in Africa have enacted policies on data protection. And one of the major principles of the GDPR is consent to data collection. Consent is really pertinent. Also to that, I've made examples of some countries which have given consent to data collection, but do not talk about the transfer thereof. They only talk about the collection. So this, like for instance, in Uganda, the Data Protection and Privacy Bill allows data controllers to collect the data, but they do not extend to what should happen once the data has been used, because this is to say the data controllers are at liberty to share this data with other users for a certain form of processing. Also, the GDPR also provides information on data processing, the principles to be guided. These are similar to those in Kenya, and the transferability of data. So what is the possible impact of the GDPR on the Kenyan businesses or African businesses? So firstly, in November 2017, the European Union announced a 44 billion fund towards external investment. So this is what I was saying. The non-compliance with the GDPR may be an indicator that the data that you collect is not safe, thereby making the European, knowing how several African countries are bedeviled with corruption, they may hesitate to invest through this non-compliance. And this non-compliance is also seen in various sectors, such as when the World Bank asked, or may I say requested, Kenya to enact a bill on conflict of interest, whereby advocates were and also public from representing clients, yet they hold positions in public bodies, because that is a conflict of interest. You could not be representing the state. Then in a case of corruption, there you are the advocate representing representing a client. Now, by failing to enact the bill, made Kenyans miss on several aids. Now, once the bill was enacted, Kenya now had the capacity to apply for some of these aids. And these are some of the factors we may experience with the GDPR. And with the enactment of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, we know that Kenya needs to be at the forefront with policy to ensure businesses are ready in compliance with both the Digital Protection Act and the GDPR, because failure to do so, the businesses may be precluded from applying for such aid. And with that, I'll share the write-up so that you can read it in length, and I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Rogers, for your elaborate presentation. Allow me to be the host, kindly. Or are there people?
How do I do so? How do I do so?
Just go to my, just where my name is, and then you'll enable me to be a host. Then I can, okay, let's do that. Is there
Make host.
Okay, thank you.
I've admitted those who are outside.
Okay, how many are we currently?
12.
Okay, thank you. That's a good number. So,
okay,
you've made me the host. You can stop sharing the screen.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you. So thank you, Rogers. So we are open for questions. Anyone with a question, kindly raise your hand. You can use the reactions there to raise your hand. Then I'll be able to see. Let me see if I can see everyone. Then I'll be able to see. Anyone with a question to Rogers on how he has spoken about the law. So if you're not a lawyer, or if you are, how would you, what would you want to ask him? maybe I can start. Rogers, there's this thing
Okay.
about when you give Safaricom your information, or these big companies, they keep sending you advertisements. Is that legal?
So firstly, they are allowed to collect the data, and in collection of the data, as you remember, as I stated in the Digital Protection Act, the Data Protection Act, you have to specify for what reason that you're collecting that data. So when Safaricom is collecting that data, you have to be informed why you're giving that personal data. Secondly, there is also terms and conditions which are usually set. So if you fail to read them, like I said, what these big data companies do, they collect the information, but they also have a clause in their terms of conditions which allows them to share this information with that party. By you just in a hurriedly clicking the terms and conditions, okay, you are giving them consent to use this data with third-party advertisers. So that's when you find your information being shared. You log on to one website, you click for something, go to the next, you find they are offering you the same thing. It's because you accepted to the terms and conditions, which allow them to share this personal data. So it's not illegal per se to that extent.
Okay, thank you so much. There's a question from Lucy. Let me I don't know if you can see the chat. Are you able to see the chat?
Now, yeah.
You can see the
If your
chat.
data was used by Cambridge Analytica, what redress can you seek? So one of the redress you can seek is under the GDPR. Like I said, the scope of the Data Protection Act currently in Kenya does not fall within the scope of data collected outside Kenya relating to a Kenyan citizen. Unlike the GDPR, which allows whether or not you're domiciled within the European Union, so long as you're an European subject and your data is collected and is shared without your consent, then you can seek redress. But let's say for Kenyans, so far under the Data Protection Act, there's no redress for that. But you can, using the conflict of laws, using the law of conflicts, you can then apply the GDPR, which is an international law, and go under that, through that channel to get redress. Thank you.
Any other question? He's open for any questions. Any questions? Seek your legal advice right now. Any questions? Yes, Tony.
Tony. Good evening, guys.
Good evening, Tony.
So thank you, Rogers, for that presentation. I really enjoyed it. So I was wondering, is hacking also covered under the data and under the Act, the Kenyan Act?
Hacking of information?
Yes, is that covered under the Kenyan Act, or that's in a different?
Now it depends with the form to which you acquire the data. Insofar as you're in possession of the personal data of a data subject, now personal data is defined within the Act as data relating to you, and a data subject is the person whose data is being acquired. In the event that it is acquired without your consent, then you can seek redress within the Act. But in the event that you left that data or in an open space, let's say you posted some data about yourself to the public and someone comes across it, then in such an instance, that shall not be illegal because you've already shared the information to the public. It was not private. So the nature of the information has to be private for it to be considered to be personal data. Thanks for that question, Tony. Anybody else?
Rogers, I have a question. There was this incident of, what is it? People were moving out of WhatsApp because of their policies or their new terms and conditions. What do you have to say about that? About the policy on WhatsApp?
On WhatsApp. So one thing with WhatsApp, it's end-to-end encrypted, which is okay because even in the Act, they say when you're sharing information outside Kenya, you should ensure the data is encrypted. End-to-end encryption means as the data is flowing through the internet, no one is able to see the contents of the information. They'll know that the information is passing, but they cannot view it. However, there are hackers who do something called phishing of information. Phishing of information is whereby they managed to access the data and decrypt it. So the Act states the obligation on the data controller. You have to ensure that the information is encrypted, which what WhatsApp does. But the reason why people had an uproar with WhatsApp is because they were planning to shift to share that information with Facebook, because WhatsApp is owned by Facebook. They wanted to change their terms and policies. And once people made an uproar of that, Facebook decided to change their stand on that. And they decided they will no longer share their data with Facebook, because they're able to see the consequences of the same. Because one thing people enjoy about WhatsApp is the privacy that it helps users to have. So that's it.
Thank you so much. Any other question? Christine, do you have a question? Christine Kahoya, Lucy, Alfred, so many people. Do you have any question? If you don't want to speak, maybe you can put your question in the chat box. Any question, anyone? Anyone with a question? This is free legal advice, by the way, so make use of it. Once he becomes an advocate, he will be charging. So, any questions? So, what sites are the best in terms of?
Actually, the browser allows you, like Chrome, I know it allows you to turn off tracking data, whereby you can say that you can click and say that you no longer want the websites to track your cookies and cache, which are used to profile you online. So that's one option. Secondly, another option would be when you know you're going to risky websites, you use a different type of browser and clearing the cache afterwards. That's also another option. But I know Google does an effective job. When once you click no tracking, you can click it. However, at some point, they are able to bypass. There are websites that are able to bypass when they tell you, you will not be able to use the website unless you accept the cookies. So that's an example.
Okay, I have a follow-up question. So meaning if you go in incognito in Google, meaning they can't track you?
No, they'll still track you. They'll still track you. What happens in incognito is that the data or the websites you browse, they won't keep the record of that data. But you know, the problem is by doing so, you can't always be going incognito all the time, because even the tracking of the cookies and cache to some point is also positive. It's also in the positive sense. Like, for example, when you want to fine-tune your search, if you search a case today and you come back tomorrow, Google will know that you visited this page yesterday. So it will help in easing the search results that you get. So you can't always be using incognito.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have a question? I'm just checking. Is there anything on the chat box? Not yet.
No, not yet.
I've seen Zoom have awarded us more minutes. So
okay.
Maybe if you can continue with the, let me make you a host again. If there are points you needed to clarify.
Maybe to clarify on the.
I'll make you a host. Okay, allow me to make you a host right away, so that if there's anything you need to clarify, you clarify, because there are no questions for now. There.
Okay. So maybe I'll speak on the possible impact to African businesses. Let me first of all share my screen. So one of the possible impacts on African businesses, like I said, was the lacking out on investment. The second one was with the enactment of the African Continental Free Trade Area Association, whereby the entire Africa will be able to trade using the free trade area policy. So we'll no longer have ECOWAS, SADC, COMESA, and all that. Will be one entire regional bloc. So to ensure you're not left behind as a country, whereby your domestic businesses end up being consumers to the other developed countries such as South Africa, which you know is a leader in Africa, whereby they become the major producer